Welcome to Brilliant Qatar. Today we are going to discuss the most important questions like previous year's questions from the biology chapter. How do organisms reproduce? So let us start. The first question what we are going to discuss here, what is the advantage of reproduction if they reproduce through spores in case of rhizopus? You know it, what is rhizopus? Right, rhizopus is we call it as a bread mold. We call otherwise rhizopus is a bread mold. Now, simple thing is that, they reproduce through spores. Now, where is spores in this rhizopus? Can you see inside? This is this balloon-like structure what they have. That is what is called sporangium. Now, inside the sporangium, look at that. Inside the sporangium, there are many minute spores. Okay, now look at these spores. This is the structure of spores. Now, when you look at the spores, they have, very thick covering. Their outer wall is very thick. Now, what is the advantage of that if their outer wall is thick? Look at here. The spores are covered by thick wall. Now, this thick wall will be protecting until they come contact with a moist surface. Now, we cannot say always the soil will be moist because sometimes there will be unfavorable condition. Now, until they comes to the favorable condition, this wall will be protecting the spores. Once the moist soil is available or water is available, they start germinating. The spores will start germinating. So, this thick wall of the spores helps the spores to survive until they come contact with a moist surface. Okay. Now, let us go to the next question. Second question. Okay. Second question is that name the organ where sperms are produced. First question. Now, you know it. The sperms are actually produced. Sperms are the male gamete. Look at that. Sperms are the male gamete where they produce inside the testis. Where do they produce? They produce inside the testis. Okay. So, that is the organ because they ask the organ where they produce. First question. Let us go to the second one. Name the hormone what they produce. That means testis produce, there are some hormone. Right. What is the name of that hormone? That is testosterone. Now, what is the use of testosterone? We have already discussed. Testosterone, they are the hormone which produce during puberty period, which help for the secondary sexual characters in the male. Okay. So, organ which is produced, that is testis, and the hormone what they produce, that is testosterone. Okay. Let us go to the third question. What changes are observed in the uterus if the fertilization does not occur? Okay. We know if the fertilization occurs, there are some changes, right? But the question is not that. If the fertilization does not occur, what will happen to the uterus? What will happen to the uterus if fertilization does not occur? Okay. Now, let us see here. The egg, the female gamete egg will be waiting in the fallopian tube. For what? For the fertilization. For the fertilization or waiting for the sperm. Now, suppose if sperms are not going to meet, what will happen to the uterus? This egg will be waiting here and there is no chance of fertilization if sperms are not coming. Now, by the time you can see the wall of uterus, it will be very thick. The wall of uterus, it will be very thick. You can see thick and spongy lining of the uterus or wall of uterus slowly break down. Because why they are getting thick? Because they are ready to receive the zygote. But there is no chance of zygote, right? So, they will slowly, this thick wall of the uterus slowly break and comes out through the vagina. What will be happening? This thick wall actually contain the blood vessel, mucus, all blood vessels or the blood, mucus, all comes out through the vagina and along with the unfertilized egg, because egg is not going to fertilize. So along with the unfertilized egg, the thick wall of the uterus and the blood, mucus, everything comes out through the vagina. That is what we call menstruation. So menstruation occurs if the egg is not fertilized on time. Okay, let us go to the next question. Next question is that what is the 2-point difference between asexual and sexual type of reproduction? Now look at the here you can see this is reproduction which happens in the amoeba, unicellular organism. Here single parental organism, you can see parental organism is only one. Now after the reproduction they produce two daughter cells. We have only one parent here. Now look at here, in this sexual reproduction, the male gamete produced by male parent, the female gamete produced by female gamete, and they fuse together, they produce zygote. Zygote will develop into embryo will be developing into the offspring. Okay, but here you need two parents. In a sexual reproduction, you need two parents to produce the two different gametes. Okay, now, so that is the main difference. So let us discuss what are the main difference. One, asexual reproduction, single parent is enough or involved, but in the sexual reproduction, two parents are needed. First important difference. Second one, no fusion of gamete occur. Because there is no gametes. In the asexual reproduction, you cannot see any gametes, right? So there is no fusion, there is no mixing of gamete, but there is a fusion of gamete in this. Look at here, the male gamete will be fusing with the female gamete to form zygote, we call fertilization, right? So fertilization will be happening in the sexual reproduction. Now, progeny is genetically identical to the parent. What is progeny? Progeny means the newly produced organism, or we say this daughter cell. And what will be their genetic content? Their gene will be, or their genetic content will be exactly similar to the parent. Exactly similar to the parent, because just they are not going to mix the DNA. There is the DNA of the parent will be copied to the offspring. Now look at here, in this case variation occurs in the progeny. In the progeny, the offspring, we can see the variation. Why there is a variation? Because the DNA of the father, a DNA of the mother, it mix. It fuse. We said that they fuse. The two male and female gamete, they fuse, and surely there will be variation that can be seen in the sexual reproduction. Okay, let us go to the next question. The next question is that distinguish between pollination and fertilization. Now look at here. First one, pollination. What is pollination? Pollination is the transfer of pollen grain. We know it, pollen grains are produced inside the anther, right? These pollen grains will transfer to the stigma of the female reproductive structure. So that transfer is called as pollination. You can see here, pollination is the transfer of pollen grain from anther. This is the structure anther. From the anther, they transfer to the stigma of the flower. That is what is called pollination. Now, what is the second question? What is fertilization? Now, fertilization means once the pollen grain reach on the stigma, they develop a small tube called pollen tube. So through the pollen tube, the two male gamete will be passing through. Right. Now, as soon as they reach here, because they are coming towards the ovule. Okay, when they reach near the ovule, this male gamete will be fusing with the female gamete egg. So this fusion of male and female gamete in the ovule, that is what is called fertilization. Now, you can see the definition of fertilization. Fertilization is the process of fusion of male and female gamete to form a zygote. After the fusion of male and female gamete, they will be forming zygote. Okay. Now, there is one more question. Mention the site and the product of fertilization. Now, where is the site of that? Just now we said that the site of fertilization, where the fertilization occur, that is what is called ovule. What is it called as? Ovule. This is the ovule. So, inside the ovule, fertilization occur. Now, there is one more question. Product of fertilization. After the fertilization, what product we are going to get? When fertilization is the male and female gamete fusion, surely after male and female gametes are fusing, zygote will be formed. Zygote will be formed. That is the product of fertilization. Okay. Let us go to the next question. Yes. What is placenta? Simple question. What is placenta? And mention its role in the pregnancy. Now, placenta means, you can see here, placenta is it is actually a disc-shaped structure. Can you see? This is the structure, and it forms between the it forms between embryo and uterine wall. Now, where is embryo? Embryo will be inside. Okay. Now, where is the uterine wall? Uterine wall will be here. So, between the uterine wall and embryo, there is a disc-shaped special tissue. That is what is called placenta. That tissue is called placenta. Now, what is the function? It is clearly mentioned there. What is the role of it? During the pregnancy, they will be having a particular role, right? The role is that they provide large surface area. Look at that. Their surface area is large. And it has some, villi-like structure. And because of that, it has a large surface area for glucose and oxygen. Now, the fetus need glucose and oxygen for the growth, right? So, this glucose and oxygen will be passing from mothers to embryo. That means, from the mother body, this glucose and oxygen will be passing through the placenta. That is the two things, glucose and oxygen will be passing from mother to embryo. Okay. Now, there are when they take this glucose, surely waste material will be created in the fetus body. The same way, even oxygen is taken, carbon dioxide will be developing, right, in the fetus. So, the removing the waste substance will be developing, whatever waste material is developing in the embryo, that will be removed through the placenta. So, it is used for, the placenta is actually used removal of waste material, also removal of carbon dioxide. That is, the direction is what? From fetus to mother's body. Not from, because look at here, the food material, glucose and oxygen, that will be from mother's body to embryo. But the removal of waste material and the carbon dioxide will be from fetus to mother's body. Okay. Now, let us discuss the next question. Next question is that, yes, explain why fertilization is possible only if copulation take place during the middle of the menstrual cycle. Now, during the middle of the menstrual cycle, we say there are more chances of pregnancy. Why? Why it is like that? Now you know it, the egg actually produced by the ovary, right? Now, why there is a more chances during this middle of that, menstrual cycle? We know a release of the egg or ovum occurs around the middle of the menstrual cycle. That means almost 14th day of the menstrual cycle. Now, this egg will be releasing when? On the 14th day of menstrual cycle. So, that egg will be waiting here. Right. If the egg is here, then only the sperms can come and fertilize. So, the release of ovum or egg occurs during the middle of the menstrual cycle. That is the 14th day. That is the reason. So, chances of meeting the sperm or the chances of fertilizing the sperm and egg will be increased during this period. During this period, that means at the middle of the menstrual cycle, there are more chance to meet the sperm and egg. Okay. Next question. Yes. Next question is that small piece of root tissue was taken from the rose plant. Okay. We are taking a small piece of a root tissue from the rose plant and placed in a nutrient medium. Nutrient medium in the laboratory, we are giving a artificial medium, and these root tissues are, we are, keeping the root tissue here, where in the nutrient medium. This is the nutrient medium, or we call culture media. Artificially, we are giving the nutrients. Okay. After keeping those root tissue, what is happening now? Each root tissue produces a new rose plant. You can see, they absorb the nutrients from here. And after absorbing, it grows. This root tissue will be growing, and they produce many new plantlet. We say many new plants. That is what is called plantlet. Okay. Name the reproductive process involved. We know here what type of reproductive process will be involved, because we are taking a small tissue of that. Now here we have taken root tissue. We can take even the leaf. Root tissue, leaf, or stem. Any tissue we can take. So, and then we are culturing inside. Artificially we are culturing. So this method is called as tissue culture. What is it called as? This method is called as tissue culture. That is the answer for this question. Name the reproductive process which is involved. Now, what type of genes will be possessed by the new rose plant? Now, what type of genes will be? This is the new rose plant, right? Now, what type of genes will be there? They will be having the same gene of the parental plant. That means the rose plant, whatever genes are they are having, the new rose plant will be having genes which are identical to the parental plant. That means it is a asexual reproduction. It is a type of asexual reproduction. Tissue culture is a type of asexual reproduction. So, surely they will be having the same, genes of the parental plant. Okay. Next question. How is the number of chromosome maintained in an organism? Now, we know it. The parental organism, or the father or mother and father, when the father produces the male gamete sperm, when the mother produces the female gamete egg, we know our chromosome number is 46. Our chromosome number is 46. But whenever the organism produces their gamete, the chromosome number just reduces into half. That is what we call a reduction division. We call it as reduction division. So what will be the number of chromosome in the egg? 23. Number of chromosome in the sperm? 23. So when they form a gamete, chromosome number will be reduced. Now what will happen? During fertilization, this male and female gamete will be fusing together. That means this 23 chromosome, they will be fusing. So in the zygote, the real chromosome number will be restored. Real chromosome number 46 will be restored. So like that they maintain the number of chromosome. Are you getting the point? So that is the one of the important question. During gamete formation, chromosome number get half. That is what, whenever the chromosome number get half, we call that type of cell division, we call meiosis. So meiosis happen. The chromosome, that is, otherwise we call reduction division, happens, during the gamete formation. Now, after the fertilization, what will happen? Means after the fusion of these two gamete, chromosome number will be maintained in the zygote. In the zygote, chromosome number will be maintained. Okay. Next question. Trace the path of the sperm where they produced in the human body to exterior. No, you have to give the path of the sperm after the production. Okay, the production we have already discussed. Producing, the sperms are producing inside the testis. Okay, from where they produce, there it has to go to the exterior, out of the male body. What are the paths? First one, it is produced in the testis. Now, in the testis, just above the testis, you can see a cap-like structure. There is a small cap-like structure like this. This is what is called epididymis. So, from the testis, sperms goes to epididymis, where they will get mature. Okay, from the epididymis, it will be going to a small tube-like structure, you can see, which is called vas deferens. They goes to, the sperms will be moving through vas deferens. From there, they will be passing through that small duct of, those glands, seminal vesicle, prostate gland, which we call ejaculatory duct. Okay, they will be going to the ejaculatory duct, and from there, they will be passing through the urethra. This is what the internal, inside the penis there is a small cavity, so that is the urethra. So through urethra they will be going out of the body. That is the pathway. That is the pathway where they produce it. From testis they goes to epidermis. From there vas deferens ejaculatory duct, and from ejaculatory duct they comes out through the urethra. That is the pathway. Okay. Next question. Write the functions and secretion of prostate gland. You know it. You know the prostate gland. This is the prostate gland. And there is a seminal vesicle. This is the seminal vesicle. Now, these two are the glands. Now, the secretions of that, they produce some liquid. They produce some secretion. They produce some fluid. Now, what is the uses of it? It's very, very important question. They produce that liquid will be providing nutrition to the sperm. You know, because of that secretion, what they produce in the prostate gland and what they produce in the seminal vesicle, which help to nourish the sperms, which get the sperm will be getting the nourishment and also facilitate their transport. Then what will happen if the sperms are easily mixing with that? They can easily transport. Right? Sperms can easily transport through the fluid. Okay, that is the function of the prostate gland and seminal vesicle. They produce some liquid which help the sperms to nourish as well as to make easy movement of sperms. Let us discuss the next question. Okay, name the part labeled ABC. We know the structure A will be, it's from here. That means it's oviduct or fallopian tube. Oviduct or fallopian tube. Okay. Structure B which is ovary. You can see there is a pair of ovary. Okay. C. The structure C, it is a thick wall structure, right? It's a bag-like structure. What we call that is the uterus. C is the uterus, and the D, which is just, you know, the lower side of the uterus, which we call cervix. D is the cervix, and the E, it is the external opening from the uterus or the cervix, we call vagina. So these are the 5 different structures. Now there are still questions. Where do the following function occur? Okay, let us see the function, following function. What is the function? First one, production of egg. Who produces the egg? Egg is produced by ovary. Ovary is the site where egg is produced. Okay. Second question, fertilization. Where fertilization occur? The fusion of male and female gamete, which we have discussed before. The fusion of male and female gamete occurs in the fallopian tube here. It will be happening in the fallopian tube or oviduct. Okay. Next one, implantation of zygote. What is implantation? Implantation means fixing, you know, the zygote is fixing on the wall of uterus. Now, surely after the development of zygote, you know, they come and fix on the wall of the uterus. The zygote will be coming and fixing on the wall of the uterus. So surely, where is the implantation site? It is in the uterus. It is in the uterus. Okay. There are some more questions. What happens to the lining of uterus? Lining of uterus means the wall of the uterus. The thick wall of the uterus. Sometimes it is thick, sometimes it is thin. Okay. Anyway, what will happen to the lining of the uterus? The wall of the uterus. When? Before release of fertilized egg. Before the release the fertilized egg, because you know before the egg is, suppose egg is producing inside or egg is even waiting here, what will be the condition of the lining of the uterus? Lining of the uterus will be very thick. You know why it is very thick? Very thick wall of the uterus, because they are getting ready to receive the fertilized egg. So they will be very thick with you know, blood vessels, all mucus, it will be getting thickened. But if no fertilization occur, then what will happen? If there is no chance of fertilization, then, you know, as we have discussed, unfertilized egg even the thick wall of uterus, along with the blood, mucus, everything will go out of the uterus and which will be going through the vagina. That is what we call menstruation. So menstruation will be happening if there is no fertilization. Clear? Let us discuss the next question. Yes. Why plant fertilization is called as double fertilization? Now, look at here. What is meant by double? Double means something which is happening twice, right? So, normally during the fertilization, you can see when the pollen tube is coming into the ovule, there are two male gametes are passing through the pollen tube. Now, what will happen to these two pollen tube? What will happen to the two male gamete? One of the male gamete will be fusing with the egg. This is the egg. So, one of the male gamete will be fusing with egg and the other male gamete will be fusing with a polar nuclei. This is what is called as polar nucleus. So, one of the male gamete fusing with this polar nucleus or secondary nucleus and one of the male gamete fusing with the egg. So, what happens? Actually, there are two fertilization happen in a single ovule. In the plant fertilization, there are two fertilization happens in a plant ovule. So, that is what it's called as double fertilization. One of the fertilization here, one fertilization is here. So, that is what is called as double fertilization. Double fertilization. One sperm is with egg, okay. Same time, the other sperm with polar nuclei here. So, same time, two fertilization happen. That's why plant fertilization is called as double fertilization. Okay. Let us see the next question. What is endosperm and how is it produced? This is very, very important question. These endosperms are, we have discussed there is a second fusion. That means the second sperm with the polar nuclei. After fusing that, they produce the endosperm. Now, what is endosperm? What is the purpose of endosperm? This endosperm give nourishment to the developing embryo. Because after the first fusion, this will develop into zygote, right? This is going to develop into zygote. This zygote is developed into embryo. This zygote is developing into embryo. So, this embryo need food material. From where do they get food material? From the endosperm. From the endosperm, they get the nourishment. So, endosperm is a triploid tissue. Why it is called triploid? There are three cells are here. Look at here. There are two polar nuclei and one is the male gamete. So, there are three nucleus together they are fusing. That's why it is called a triploid tissue produced by the fusion of male gamete with secondary nucleus. This is the secondary nucleus. This is the male gamete. So, when this male gamete and secondary nucleus fuse, they form endosperm and it is a nutritive tissue for the growing embryo. This is actually the food material. This is actually the food material for the growing embryo. Okay students, I hope you got all the questions what we have discussed. So we'll meet in the next class with a new topic.
Brilliant Qatar, your trusted coaching partner for IIT, JEE, NEET, Science and Commerce tuitions with 10 years of excellence in quality training. Brilliant Qatar.